in Geneva, where President Biden's historic meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin is happening right now. Here you can see the two men shaking hands just a short time ago. It is Mr. Biden's first meeting with the Russian leader as president. He's promised a much tougher stance than his predecessor, Donald Trump, who appeared to have a cozier relationship with Mr. Putin. The topics on the agenda are expected to include nuclear arms control, Russian-linked cyber attacks on the U.S., and the imprisonment of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Our chief White House correspondent, Nancy Cordes, is traveling with President Biden and joins us from Geneva. Nancy, good morning. We saw a brief glimpse from the press pool a little while ago of the two leaders sitting down together. I believe Mr. Biden was heard to tell Mr. Putin that it's always better to meet face to face. Do we have any idea what else they discussed in that moment the press was allowed in?
Well, President Biden, Anthony, was also asked whether he trusts Putin, and Putin was asked whether he trusts President Biden. President Biden nodded, but to be honest, it was difficult to make out what was said because so many U.S. reporters in the traveling White House pool were actually boxed out of that room because a swarm of Russian journalists, far more than were supposed to be there, boxed them out, got into the room. There was actually a physical altercation between the Russians and the Americans. This is the kind of chaos that often does accompany the Russian leader. Sometimes it's meant to throw the Americans or whoever he's meeting with off their game. But nevertheless, all of the reporters have now been pulled from the room, and that meeting is taking place. First, a small meeting between Presidents Biden and Putin and their top foreign aides. And then after about an hour and a half or so, we expect it to open up, and 4 more aides on each side will be allowed into the room.
Nancy, how did President Biden prepare for this meeting?
Well, he spent weeks sitting down with his Secretary of State, his national security advisor. Here in Europe, he's been on the road for the past week. He's been meeting with various European leaders, getting their take on what they want him to bring up, what they think is not as important, their experiences meeting with the Russians. So he has been preparing meticulously over the past few weeks. And as his White House press secretary said recently, in some ways he's been preparing for this for 50 years because he has such a long history of meeting with Russian leaders.
And we're expecting, Nancy, this meeting could go on for literally 4 or 5 hours or more.
That's the best indication we have from both the White House and the Russians. But these are two men who have the gift of gab, who have a lot of agenda items to get through. Yeah. So it's quite possible that this meeting could go longer. And then, of course, we've got press conferences after that. Those could take a couple of hours to get through as well.
Yeah, and an attempt here to reset an agenda between these two countries in a relationship that, as we've been saying all morning, is at a low point at this point. Nancy, thank you very much.